Hi, I'm Jennifer Ferguson with Artistic Painting Studio, and today I'm going to introduce you guys to my stamping rollers and how to completely work with them. So we're going to get started with this, and I'm just going to move you over here a little closer and show you what these are all about. So this is part of the stamping roller kit where you get the handle and the sponge applicator. And all you have to do is quickly assemble this, which I'm going to show you, okay? And excuse the noise. The plastic is a little noisy there, okay? So you get this black bar here, and you get the handle, and the handle has the nut on the top. And to assemble this, all you do is put the black bar onto the screw here, and then just use the nut, see if I can get that going, to tighten down. So this is how to assemble the handle. And it comes with the sponge applicator, which is inserted into the very bottom hole that's closest to the actual handle. And you just put in the pin to one end and then open the bar a little bit with your fingers and put the other end in. So once you have your foam applicator loaded into your handle, then you're actually going to load the sponge with the paint choice and color that you want. So it works with any paint that I have found. Doesn't matter if it's a chalky paint. We're using General Finishes today. I've used quite a few of the different chalk paint brands that are on the market. I know some customers have actually even used stain. So pretty much any kind of a liquid form paint stain you can get loaded into the sponge. So give me just a second here. I'm going to put this on the side. And I've already got one of my older handles out here ready to go, okay? So I want to try to move this around so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm actually going to get the camera here just a little bit lower so you can see the table where I'm working, because this is the most important thing. I want you guys to see what I'm actually accomplishing here. Okay, so like I said, I'm just using General Finishes milk paint. That's Prussian Blue is the color that I've chose to play with. I'm going to give this a nice stir to start with, because the color's got a little bit of separation. And the paint has, you know, a pretty good body to it. It's not real thin. So I'm definitely going to need to dilute the paint with water, okay? So I'm going to give myself a second here. We're just going to get some paint onto my tray. And this is a wonderful tray to use when loading the stamping rollers, because it gives you a nice flat surface. And what it is just like a food service serving tray, okay? And want to make sure that when you're doing this, the handle has a little bit of an angle up. So make sure that the black bars are angled up and not angled down when you're trying to actually load the foam. And I just use a squirt bottle, and I'm just going to spray a little bit of water onto the sponge to get a little bit wet so it helps accept the paint better, as well as I'm going to go ahead and dilute the paint. And how much you dilute is going to depend on how thick the paint of your choice is. The thicker it is, the more water you want to add, because you want it to be thin because it soaks into the sponge way easier. And you're going to find that you're going to have a lot better application with this process. So I'm just mixing in my water, and once I have that mixed in, then I'm just going to go ahead and roll back and forth through the paint, the diluted paint I should say, and get the sponge really well loaded, okay? Depending on how much application you're planning on doing would depend on how how much paint you actually are going to get into the foam, okay? So depending on how much, you know, how much coverage you're trying to actually do. So if you're just doing a couple of sides of drawers, you're not going to need a ton of paint, but if I was doing like a curtain panel, you're going to need to have more paint loaded into the sponge to keep you going further. So depending on your project will depend on how much paint you actually load in. So once you have the sponge applicator loaded, and I feel I've got a good amount of paint on here right now, you're then going to choose the pattern of the stamping roller that you're going to play with. And this one is actually called Birds of Paradise. And again, these rollers have the pins on the end, so they fit into the stamping handle. And the best way to load these in is to go ahead and place, oh, let's get this moved over here a little bit further. Okay, go ahead and place the handle on the side so that the pin is against a hard surface. And then your other fingers, okay, I'm gonna pull it up over here. Your other fingers, you wanna kind of pinch that bar there so that you're holding on to it so that when you load in the pattern, okay, because you have to pull the roller handle apart a little bit further to get that to slide in, that you want to make sure that you don't lose the stamping handle. And it seems to be a little awkward at first, but as you load and unload your roller, you get way better at it, okay? The other thing that I like to do first is that the sponge is actually loaded, but the pattern isn't loaded yet. So as I turn the pattern, you can see that the design is starting to get the paint loaded on. And the easiest way I have found to do that is this is just some of our packing paper that we use for shipping. And I just roll across this and I can imprint the pattern as well as get the whole pattern loaded. And you don't want to push really hard with the rollers. The blue rollers that are considered the stamping rollers that already come with the pins are very soft, okay? They're a very squishy material. So it doesn't take much pressure to load them and to use them, okay? So be kind of gentle as you're actually doing that. And then I'm going to come back over here to my easel and just show you, and I think I might have to turn our camera just a slight adjustment here so I can get you back up with me and show you how to actually paint with this. So once you're all loaded, it's just a matter of lining it up, whatever you're planning on painting, and then just rolling straight down. I've always found that rolling down seems to be the easiest application instead of trying to roll up, but it will work both ways, okay? So if I start it down here, I can also roll up, but it seems to be an easier angle and just easier for me to accomplish when I'm rolling from top to bottom. So I'm going to come here a little close so that you can actually see this pattern. And again, this is the Bird of Paradise design. And I mean, look how quickly you can create design and pattern on just about any surface. This is wonderful for furniture and cabinetry. I've done it on fabric where I did some drapery panels. There's just many, many options and choices to actually work with. The other thing I want to show you is that for the last few years, I have been also selling what we call the Foey rollers, which is more of an embossing or an imprinting type of roller that you're going to go through a wet medium versus actually like painting on, because this doesn't have anything to continually load the paint. So it's hard to do a positive painting technique with these. But what I have designed is what we're calling a converting bar. So you just remove the handle as I just did, and this bar here will go back into the center of these rollers here and turn them into a stamping roller. So they now have the pins on the ends, which will fit into the stamping handle. So you can switch out the stamping pattern and put in one of the Foey rollers, okay? And this will give you many, many more options. We have about 38 different patterns in the Foey rollers to choose from, and the stamping rollers only have like 6 different designs. So it does give you a lot more options. Again, I always will come over to some of the packing paper and just roll across here so that I can get the entire pattern loaded. And you'll notice that the red rollers, when you're using the red rollers, this is definitely a harder rubber, so you can press a little bit more and not have any issues with them. But it gives you the ability to basically just stencil on or stamp on your pattern to almost any surface. So I thank you guys for joining me. You can find all of these rollers on artisticpaintingstudio.com. You'll find them in collection 1, 2, and in the stamping roller collection. I think altogether we probably have close to 50 different rollers to choose from. So thanks again. Whoa, trying to get that out. Thanks again for joining me, and please feel free to contact us if you have any questions about how to use our rollers, and we hope you have a fun rolling stamping day.